The first thing that caught my eye was the flashing lights, red and blue strobes pulsing through my windows, painting my living room walls in chaotic hues. It was just past sunrise, and my morning coffee hadn't even cooled enough to sip. Stepping onto my porch, I spotted a sheriff's patrol car parked in my driveway. Deputy Ryan emerged with an awkward shuffle, the kind of walk that screamed, "I'd rather be anywhere else." That's when I knew who was behind this. Linda Marshall, the self-appointed ruler of the Willow Ridge Homeowners Association, or as the locals dubbed her, the dictator in khaki capris. She was the type who measured her hedges daily and wielded a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. We'd had minor clashes before, a snarky note here, a glare there, but nothing like this. I stepped outside, coffee mug in hand. Deputy Ryan glanced up with an apologetic wince. He knew this was absurd, but duty was duty. Before I could say a word, Linda strutted out from behind a group of HOA members at the end of my driveway, marching up my steps like she was storming a courtroom, clipboard gripped tight. "Sheriff Carter," she sneered, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I've had no choice but to report you for multiple violations." I didn't flinch. Violations of what? She flipped open her clipboard like she was unveiling evidence at a trial. "Excessive noise from your animals, trespassing livestock, and," she paused for effect, "improper fencing." I glanced at my ranch. Daisy, my prized mare, was calmly chewing hay about 20 feet inside my fence line, her tail flicking as if she knew Linda was full of it. "You called the sheriff's department," I said flatly, "to complain about my horse eating grass." Linda jabbed a finger toward Daisy like she was a fugitive. "That horse was seen wandering through HOA property last night. Several residents reported disturbances. Daisy's too lazy to wander." I shot back. "She's basically a couch potato with hooves." Linda didn't budge. "I have witnesses." I chuckled. "Let me guess, Tom from Lot 12? The guy who gripes if a bird chirps too loud." Deputy Ryan stepped in before things escalated. "Sir," he muttered, "just humor me." Linda filed an official HOA complaint. "Against the sheriff?" I asked, incredulous. Ryan shrugged helplessly. "Look, I know it's ridiculous, but legally." I sighed, set my coffee down, and walked over to the fence. Daisy perked her ears as I approached, giving me a friendly nudge. I checked the wire. No breaks, no damage. Turning back to Linda, I said, "My fence is fine. Daisy's fine. And I'm pretty sure you're just bored." Linda's face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon. "This isn't over," she hissed. "Your property falls under HOA jurisdiction. If you won't follow the rules, you'll face fines, or worse." "You're bluffing," I replied with a laugh. "My ranch has been here for 20 years, long before your HOA existed. Check your paperwork." Linda smirked. "I've been digging through county records, and I've found some interesting details about your property lines." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed off, her HOA cronies muttering smugly behind her. Ryan gave me a sympathetic shrug. "I'll write a report," he muttered. "It won't go anywhere." "Thanks," I said, watching Linda's car disappear down the road. Her parting words gnawed at me, though. She'd been digging through records, and if there was one thing I knew about Linda Marshall, it was that she didn't play fair. The harassment ramped up the next week. First came petty fines, $50 for unauthorized livestock presence, which made no sense since my land wasn't under HOA control. Then citations for excessive noise. Apparently Daisy's occasional whinny was a public nuisance. The final straw was an official notice taped to my mailbox, claiming my ranch's western pasture, near the HOA's boundary, was now HOA-controlled land, signed with Linda's flourish like a victory seal. I headed to the county records office that afternoon. The clerk, a lanky guy with glasses thick as bottle caps, greeted me with a nervous grin. I asked about my property records and learned Linda had requested files just days earlier. Examining the documents, I found a new map attached, one that conveniently shifted my boundary lines to back her claims. It wasn't just suspicious, it was forgery. "Can you prove this?" I asked the clerk. He scratched his head. "I can't say for sure," he stammered, "but there's been some unusual paperwork shuffling lately." I knew what that meant. The next morning, my front gate was blocked by HOA volunteers hammering a sign into the ground, "Proposed Development Site," with Linda's name proudly listed as project lead. I stormed out. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Linda called smugly from her car, sipping coffee like she owned the town. Just following proper HOA procedure, Sheriff. Since your land's now under our jurisdiction, we voted to rezone part of it. Clearing starts in a few weeks. You can't do this, I snapped. That's my land. Not anymore, she replied with a venomous smile. See you at the next HOA meeting. That evening, I sat in my barn with Daisy, running my fingers through her mane. She sighed as if she sensed the trouble. Don't worry, girl, I murmured. We'll fix this. I didn't know how yet, but Linda had made it personal. If she wanted a fight, she'd get one. Linda didn't waste time tightening her grip. By week's end, I had 3 new HOA citations, $200 for visual pollution because my barn didn't meet their aesthetic standards, $75 for unauthorized fencing, and a baffling $100 for environmental disruption. Apparently, my horses kicked up too much dust near the HOA walking trail. It wasn't just about fines. Linda was turning the town against me. At the grocery store, Mrs. Ellis avoided my gaze. At the diner, someone slid a newspaper over the counter to dodge conversation. Linda was dragging my reputation through the dirt. Late one night, I found an old deed among my property documents, its boundaries clearly showing my ranch was never HOA land. But a torn corner left part of the map incomplete, damage that could be twisted in Linda's favor. I suspected she'd seen it too. At the county clerk's office the next day, the clerk slid a folder across the desk. You didn't hear this from me, he muttered, but Linda's been busy. Inside were altered maps redefining property lines, including mine, with Linda's signature at the bottom. She bribed someone, I muttered. More like pressured, the clerk corrected. She's got town council buddies who get HOA favors if they back her. That afternoon, I called an emergency HOA meeting and spread the word. The community center was packed, buzzing with gossip. Linda sat front and center, smug as ever. I held up the forged map. This is a fake, I said loudly. Linda bribed a clerk to alter it. Whispers erupted. Linda's smile barely flickered. That's an official HOA document, she countered sweetly. Take it up with the county. I did, I shot back. And I know you're lying. The room grew louder. Linda's composure held. I'm just protecting our community from disruptions. Disruptions? I laughed. My ranch was here before your HOA. You're playing politics. Then explain why your horses wander onto HOA land, she snapped. They don't, I replied. But you've convinced half this room I'm a lawless rancher. Because you are, Linda said coldly. You think your badge puts you above the rules. That hit hard. I'd earned this town's trust over years. You're wrong, I said, voice steady. I don't hide behind my badge. But keep pushing, and you'll see I'm not easy to run off. Linda's smile wavered, but she recovered. See you at the zoning hearing, she sneered. The next week, I hatched a bold plan. During the Willow Ridge Parade, I dressed my horses in cowboy hats and sheriff badges and led them down the HOA's disputed path. Daisy pranced proudly as townsfolk cheered. Linda stormed out, shrieking, "Get those animals off HOA property." I grinned. Funny thing, this land's not yours. Deputy Ryan handed me real county records proving my ownership. The mayor, nearby, skimmed them. This is outrageous, Linda sputtered. No, the mayor said coolly, this is justice. The crowd laughed as Daisy snorted at Linda. I tipped my hat and led Daisy home. The fight wasn't over, but I'd regained some ground. Linda doubled down with a legal notice demanding I stop using the disputed land. I dug deeper, talking to her husband, Paul, at the tavern. Tired and defeated, he admitted, she's working with developers for a fancy community center on your land. HOA gets a payout, and Linda gets her name on a plaque. That explained everything. I found construction stakes on my property the next day. Linda wasn't waiting for the courts. I confronted her at the HOA office. You've got developers trespassing on my land, I snapped, tossing a stake on her desk. I'm just planning ahead, she said smugly. Prove it, she taunted as I stormed out. With Deputy Ryan, I caught a developer staking my land and showed him my deed. He backed off, and Ryan's investigation confirmed Linda's bribery. At the zoning hearing, her scheme collapsed. She lost her HOA role, faced fines, and faded from view. The new HOA president, Mark, promised no more trouble. Paul later told me Linda was leaving town to cool off. Riding Daisy through my pasture days later, I felt peace settle over Willow Ridge. Linda had tried to take everything, but she'd only made me fight harder. With Daisy by my side, I knew we'd won, stronger than ever.